Sessions with Dr. Botgore presents The Magic Show. Narrated by Lorne Bronstein. Patient ID 631. Name Thomas Pangle. Sex male. Case file The Magic Show. Notes. Do you remember when you stopped believing in magic? Before logic beat you into submission and cynicism became a badge of honor? Today we learn about Thomas, a boy from a small town who will soon discover that illusions are so much more than sleight of hand. They're a vessel, a time machine of sorts that impede rationality, even if only for a moment, to transport us to a time where anything is possible. Thaddeus Botgore. It was a warm summer day when the magic show arrived. In a small town like Belling, it was a real treat. No one stops here except truckers filling up and people looking for directions. For a quaint town of 500 people, something like this was bigger than Christmas. I remember a big truck pulling up with a man in a cape and a top hat. But more than anything, I remember the excitement of the young children as he introduced himself. "I am William the Great," he said as he approached a woman and presented her with flowers from what appeared out of thin air. The town was stunned in amazement. You have to understand, for years we've had poor reception. The internet was a luxury many went without. And while my generation was raised on YouTube, the majority of this town spent their afternoons gossiping about their neighbors and drinking the night away. I wanted to speak up and reveal his tricks, but I figured, why not let the town have this moment? I have to admit, the show was fun. There were rabbits that were pulled from hats, and a small stage constructed on which he stood atop. He had Beverly Wilston, our local librarian, stand behind a curtain, only to disappear moments later. He even produced doves from a flame. But the most shocking part of all was when he began sawing my little brother in half. By the time we heard the blood-curdling screams, we realized there was nothing magical at all. Turns out he was just an escaped lunatic, and his magic box was just a box. The police found him one town over just before his quote-unquote grand finale. My parents got divorced shortly after that day. The town really never spoke about it again, but you could feel the sadness and I guess horror in the air. I don't know if it was his charm or something about his tricks, but suddenly I have a desire for magic. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for listening and supporting this art. Share it with your friends, like it, subscribe to Sessions with Dr. Botgore if you haven't yet. There's going to be plenty more stories, both written and audio. The quality of this audio is definitely going to improve over time. This is my first one, and I appreciate your patience as I learn. It was a very large learning curve, and I look forward to continually improving. But at this point, I guess if you could just share it, tell your friends, exposure helps. I sincerely appreciate anyone willing to check it out, so thanks again for listening.